You teed up a question before we went to break, and I think this is a conversation worth having. Let's talk about what you teed up before we went to break.
Well, it's interesting that this, in the spirit of the political season that we're in, I just found it very ironic that we hadn't heard a lot about something that happened last week during the NFL telecast. A post-game interview with Brock Purdy when the 49ers won. Nick Bosa, who's an unbelievable player from Ohio State, put on a MAGA hat and purposely went out there. I mean, and this was definitely intentional. Put on a MAGA hat and went out and was on the screen and made sure had both his fingers pointing at his head with the MAGA hat on as Brock Purdy was being interviewed. And there's another player there too, and they kind of played it off like. They were surprised, I think, when they looked back and saw what he did and kind of played it off and chuckled a little bit. And it leads me to the fact that we hadn't heard anything about the NFL coming down on him regarding some level of punishment. That is not encouraged by the NFL to be political in that space. You can wear the hat or do whatever you want to do outside to stay in your place of work. But at your place of work, it should not be encouraged. And I'm surprised we hadn't heard a lot about that, and Ryan Clark, who talked very eloquently about the fact that it's kind of ironic how that is a 49ers franchise that came down pretty hard on Colin Kaepernick back in the day when he was taking a knee,
right,
a solid knee. He didn't have a sign on his chest saying this and saying that. The only reason we know about it because somebody when they interviewed him, in the locker room. So and pretty much the story got him out of football because of that.
Right.
And I just think it's really ironic that this is going on and we haven't heard anything, and I think we should. I'm curious what people think about that, but that blew my mind when I saw that. Somebody called me and asked me about it. I didn't know that happened because I didn't watch the post game.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see that
interview.
part.
But I think because this had to be when they beat the Cowboys.
Beat the Cowboys.
And so
Sunday,
it was Sunday night.
Yeah.
And it was Sunday night football where that's the only game on. Everybody's watching the Cowboys because Cowboys draws 49ers. That's a good team, good game. So the audience was perfect, and he intentionally did that. No, and I just think that there's no place for that, in my opinion. And they haven't, regardless of how you feel about who you're putting for in this very heated election that's coming up in about 4 or 5 days from now. So I'm really curious to see what the NFL does and people reaction or feedback to what Nick Bosa did.
Yeah, it's interesting that nothing has been said about it. You mentioned it where it's actually a part of Rule Number 5, Section 4 in the NFL rule book, which is pretty clear about what players are allowed to wear and what they're not allowed to do and say and do and wear. And it's part of a nonpartisan rule.
Yes,
and
exactly.
So he broke that by doing
Oh, absolutely. He intentionally did it and probably didn't even worry about any retributions or anything associated with any punishment because he intentionally did that. He money probably not an issue. Maybe somebody paid him to do it.
Right.
Who knows?
Right. Because like I said, it's a captive audience of thousands and thousands of people. And it would if he'd had a Harris hat, it'd been the same thing.
Nobody. No, you feel a Harris hat. I can guarantee you that we've heard about that, in my opinion. So I just think it's disingenuous. I think for not to even to follow up on that, say anything about it, in my opinion. Yeah.
100%.
Pickens for the Steelers was fined $10,000 for a message he had wore on his eye black, which is the tape they put under the eyes, and he was fined $10,000 just for that. And so, I'm sure they may fine him $10,000, maybe $5,000, but to me, I get the NFL's part in it, but it's really it's a little confusing because. What message are you sending to your teammate? What message are you trying to send? What are you actually trying to say? Like, what are you actually trying to say? I mean, I get whatever your political beliefs are.
Yeah, he's saying, this is who I want you to vote for.
But when you sit next to someone every day, you practice next to someone, you talk to people, and you hear people say things about your teammates and others, I don't understand. Are you saying you're okay with that? Are you saying that's all right? You saying you support that? It's hard, and that's one of the things when if you get a chance, you watch Ryan Clark's clip off of his podcast, and he just talks about how difficult it's been with things as divisive as they are, because it's hard to separate people that say, "Oh, I support, this type of belief," but when it comes with all of those other disparaging things that are against people that sit next to you each and every day, that's your teammates or your partners, it's hard to separate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just hard to separate that, It's just difficult. And then, with people like Nick Bosa and others, like with that type of display, you are clearly trying to push something well beyond, I believe in fiscal responsibility or small government.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you, you're pushing something much more much bigger than that. Because if you were just worrying about taxes, I just don't think you would be that animated because you could get better taxes. It's just me.
Interesting. He's definitely trying to push something. And he was fearless about it, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's just, it's weird.
And he leaned into it as if it was cool to do that. And, I just, yeah.
It's one of the questions like, are we having a question about, big government, small government, taxes, blah, blah, blah? Or are we trying to have a conversation about something much bigger than that? Or much more personal than that?
Right.
Because that's what that's what I break it down to. We could disagree on, what bonds we support, how much money we support, how much government, how much tax. Okay, that's fine. We can disagree on that. But there's some things we shouldn't be trying to disagree on. If you see me as you say you see me.
Right.
If you see me as who you say, we shouldn't be trying to disagree on that.
And do it off the field.
Well,
I mean, what he did was a better commercial than them buying a 30-second commercial.
And that's
for
why he
$1 million.
did it. That's why he did it.
Mm.
And that's why I did. And even, I guess I'm surprised even network. Sometimes they have a 5-second delay kind of thing. I can't understand why they could have pulled that off there before it happened, from a producer perspective too. So yeah, that
tells you a lot.
Yeah.
Could.